Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Sami here with Angela Belford, and today we are going to be continuing our conversation with Anna Beth Gorman. Last week, we talked about money and how women aren't talking about money enough and what we can start to do to change that. And then today, we're going to be continuing that.
Yeah, I love how she unpacks the idea of different blocks of wealth. And today we're going to really dive deeper into the idea of social capital and how social capital can unlock financial capital. And of course, at one point, one of either Sami or I has to be a contrarian. I get it this week. Anyway, Sami sets up a pretty great example of social capital and how to use that to talk about money. And then we'll keep going. I think that you guys are really going to enjoy this topic. Let's get started. Well, and I want to go back to, and Sami, I'm glad you interrupted me on my question, my follow-up question, because when you say, and it's weird because I've heard this twice in like 6 weeks. When you say, I want you to cultivate your network and make sure you're friends with a financial advisor, a banker, a CPA, which if you go to chamber networking events, these are the people that go to those events. So it's absolutely easy to do that because they all are hanging out at those events. But, and an attorney, when you say that, my first like stomach gut response is, so you're saying I should make friends with people so I can use them? And I'm like, no, no, no. And I love how Sami positioned is like, no, we're part of the board of directors. And by being around people that are talking about money on a regular basis, you actually, it normalizes the water that you're swimming in.
Right. It's, again, you call it your board of directors. I call it the kitchen cabinet, right? Your personal kitchen cabinet, right? The people. And again, I happen to be married to an incredible man. He's a CPA. He's crazy smart. Sometimes I'm still uncomfortable asking him because he is so knowledgeable. Where sometimes I'm more comfortable talking to a woman.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I actually had a question a couple of years ago, and I was at an event, collaborating on an event, and there was a female banker there. I'm like, I'm gonna ask her, because also she and I know each other. We've worked together on a lot of projects. It wasn't like I was just walking up to her like, hey, I'm Anna Beth. I have this really random question. I was like, no, like, hey, Kim, I've got this question. I was like, this is so silly. It's like, I'm actually even embarrassed to talk to my husband about it because he's so smart and I don't want him to think that I'm dumb. Right. So I like what, and she's like, oh no. And she just like quickly shared some information with me. It was, we have an authentic relationship. I was not cold calling her. Right. But again, by virtue of my social capital, and I talk a lot about this a lot, social capital it's your personal network. Right. And it's really critical for women to build their social capital. Sami's talking about her personal board of directors. Well, they're gonna like burst your bubble. They need to. They're also going to be the people that are going to elevate your name in spaces and places, and they're going to talk about you, and they're going to like bring opportunities to you. Like it is so important to build social capital. And women, we actually do this quite well organically. Like when we get to know people at the soccer field, when we get to know people at our jobs, all that. But I just want more women to also think about it with a little bit more intentionality and thoughtfulness. Like it's important to build your social capital with individuals and resources. And if you're uncomfortable building that, talking to men that are in those spaces, look for women because they're out there too.
Yeah. The social capital, I was 29 when, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was 29 when I was on a committee with the kind of who's who in Northwest Arkansas. And I was maybe even 28. And I was on it because I was a worker bee. And like at that point in time, it's like, you don't have the name recognition, but you have the skill set and the worker bee. So like this one invitation really opened up a network. But one of the ladies on the group, we went to lunch. She says, hey, Angela, we live in Northwest Arkansas where Alice Walton does business. How many phone calls would it take you? Like, somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody to get to Alice Walton. And I said, oh, golly, at 29, it was like 5 or 6. And she said, "Your goal is to be able to reach anybody in Northwest Arkansas in 2 phone calls." And I cannot even tell you, I would have never occurred to me to make that a goal.
Mhm.
But it has changed how I think about relationship building,
Mhm.
not for the purpose of almost never have I had to leverage that network for anything besides the greater good, but just now, um there's nobody in Northwest Arkansas I can't get to with 2 phone calls, and I've probably been there for about 10 years because I was very intentional about who I connected with, and if I met somebody at a networking event, I'm adding them onto LinkedIn, I'm adding value. I also made it my goal to not only would I know those people and be able to get there, but they would see me as somebody that brought value. So it was like, "Hey, I heard you need to meet this person. Let me introduce you to." I'm the queen of, like, "Let me introduce you to." And what I've explained to people is I'm like, when I do that, I have just made a huge deposit into 2 people's social bank account. And
Mhm.
now
Mhm.
they both think of me as more valuable because I have made a deposit and I made a connection. And when they like do business together and all of those things, like it's been a beautiful thing. So I'm really glad that you talk about social capital as another kind of area of wealth. It also helps us know be different. We can't be different if we don't see different.
Right. Well, social capital unlocks financial capital.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
again, it's there. I mean, there are examples. So when an entrepreneur, a business owner, goes into a bank to ask for a business loan, there is an element that's like, what do we know about this person? Right? And if you were just walking off the street and the people that are reviewing your loan have never heard of you, don't know, aren't connected to you in some way. And this is true too. Like a man that's reviewing a business loan from a woman, like he has a hard time empathizing with you. And it's not intentional on his part. He just has a different lived experience. Where if it was a guy on the other side of him, like he's like, man, I remember when I was that guy's age. I remember when we were going through the same thing, doing this or that. So it is harder for women to unlock financial capital when they don't have the social capital, that network that people are going to like vouch for them or that. I've got to, I never thought about this until much later in life, but when I was very young and I was out of undergrad and I was living in Austin, Texas, which is a big city, and I was a small fish and and everyone's got a PhD walking around Austin working in bars. Like I mean like literally it's very hard to get jobs there. But I had gotten a pretty good job working at the Texas Senate and I was really bored and I had heard that the Girl Scout Council, local Girl Scout Council was hiring. And for I mean again I'm in my early 20s. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I'd be great at a job like that." And prior to that, like I was so nervous going into other jobs, right? But going into this job interview, I called the local Girl Scout Council where I grew up and I said, like, hey, like, I don't know if y'all remember me. My name's Anna Beth. I grew up as Girl Scout, like, oh my God, Anna Beth, we totally remember you. You were like that kid that showed up here all the time. Like, I mean, I was little Miss Girl Scout. Like, yes, we remember. I was like, well, I was like, I'm so excited. Like, y'all have jobs. Like, yeah, you're calling our office. Like, we work here. Like, well, there's a job in Austin and I really want to apply to. Like, can I use someone as a reference? They're like, absolutely. I hung up the phone. Like, before I got to my interview, what I didn't know is the CEO of the local Girl Scout Council where I grew up called on my behalf to her peer, the CEO in Austin, Texas. So we're talking, I mean, Texarkana, Arkansas, called the CEO in Austin, Texas. So when I walked in to have this entry level job interview with this mid manager, the CEO, she's like, I had to come out and meet you. One of my CEO peers has been calling on your behalf for the last 2 days. Like, they're like the best Girl Scout is about to walk through the door, and we had to meet you. And it really, like, I think about that now, like, and that woman within my I had never leveraged, Angela, to your point, like, leveraged my social capital. I didn't even think that I had social capital. I didn't think about it. But these were individuals who knew me, knew my character, knew my passion, and they were so happy to be there on my behalf. And like, and the woman's like, honestly, we weren't even going to give you an interview, but this like, because
Wow.
I'd been a poli-sci major and I was working for a school. Like, why would you want to come here? I was like, let me just tell you why you need me more. And
Wow.
it also like changed my professional, like it changed my professional life, right? That's when I got into the nonprofit space, but it was because of a little thing I didn't know then, which was social capital.
I think that's amazing. And I also think that that highlights you you probably have more social capital than you realize. If you're out there and you're listening to this and you don't think you have any, did you have a high school teacher who you really connected with? If did you have is there somebody who you were part of a church or a religious group that saw you sort of in extracurricular activities? Angela, I also think about you for a while. You did a mom internship, um,
Mm, I
and
did.
this was I think of that also that there are stay-at-home moms who are re-entering the workforce that might think, "Oh, I don't have a reference." You absolutely have a reference. You've got all those other project managers that you go to play dates with who have seen how you meal plan and how you project manage and how you financially manage your household. Like even that is still a reference and is still social capital. Angela, will you highlight real quick this program
I
because I think
will. I would
everybody
love
needs to be
to.
doing it.
Yeah,
Please.
the mom internship, and actually, I think we're rolling it back out, aren't we not, Sammy? We were talking about it.
Yes.
Um, we had to move offices, so we're still figuring out. But what we did is we said, if you are a mom who wants to re-enter the workforce, come to work for our marketing agency because you'll learn lots of skills. And we knew that they had lots of skills, but they needed up to date, like how to manage social media, how to do customer service, how to we don't love
Use
teaching
Canva.
graphics. Yeah, we could teach use Canva. Back then it was Adobe. We figured out that was not something we were set up to teach. I started our marketing agency and from the beginning said this is a teaching hospital. We're all going to make mistakes and we're going to do a great job for our clients and we're going to be learning along the way. But this mom internship, we just publicized it and we ended up, I think our first class of moms had 2 or 3. So they worked for like 10 hours a week. We worked them 9 to 3, and they had a couple of days a week that they came in for like 3 hours at a time. And here's what was weird is that we also are the place that you can come if you don't have a lot of experience. So you know how so many jobs say you have to have 2 years experience. Well, we would hire you at the Belford Group. We are going to get a lot of work out of you and you're going to make a little bit of money as you go and it's going to keep our overhead low. And we have had so many people that have started their careers. Well, at that time we had probably I think we had 4 or 5 staff members that were under 30, and even some of them that had been with us for 5 or 6 years, they were still under 30. Well, we bring in 2 to 3 moms and suddenly changes the dynamic of our office. We have these caretakers. We have these moms that are like offering advice and they're at a stage where their kids won't listen to them. And then they have these coworkers that are like, I'm having this problem with my boyfriend or whatever. And you've got these moms that are just loving on our staff. It was the most beautiful and amazing thing ever to be able to give this. And one of them, probably our most successful, went on to get a very nice paying job because she was able to work with us for 2 years, and learn all the skills. And she had some natural inclinations that we were able to then hone in on and teach and train. And it was just beautiful and amazing.
Well, and I think it solved part of the problem if somebody says, "Oh, I have a resume gap," and then they go, "Well, what happened?" Well, now they were able to like I have work experience on my resume that I can jump into another job that might be they may not want to be in marketing long term, but
Hmm.
I've got some time here in this
Mhm.
place. Anyway, it I felt like it served so many different
It was
pieces
beautiful.
of it. It built wealth in a flexible way. It built skills. It was like you have soft skills, let me give you a couple of hard skills and now like sky's the limit. Anyway, we are in the process of bringing it back and I'm really really excited about it.
Yeah, they make great project managers
They make
because
really
they
good
have
project managers.
totally, like, kept the trains moving, and so then you bring them in and you just teach them the process, and they are, like, fantastic. And they've been used to telling young people what to do, so, anyway,
I love that.
it's beautiful, and we actually, when we were I counted up one time, in the last 15 years with our marketing agency, have had over 50, interns, which is interesting because there was like 3 years that I was not working, so we didn't have interns those 3 years. So I I've taught other companies how to have interns and how to do that because it is so valuable to be able to give somebody that start, and I really believe what you send in the lives of others. We haven't really talked about energy as a wealth builder, but this idea of like when you've given to others, then like there's a natural, our world, our universe, my faith perspective is that that will come back to you. And so I
Absolutely.
think there are so many ways that we can be even more helpful, and create win-win-win situations.
Absolutely. And so there's wealth building strategies, which we've been talking about. On the flip side of that, for women, there are wealth stripping activities that are particular to women. And we've actually been talking about it without even knowing about it. Like childcare is wealth stripping, like the cost of
Mhm.
childcare, the cost of being a parent is a wealth stripping activity. And during the pandemic, they created this big term called the she session. I don't know if y'all remember that, but there was
Ooh.
a significant number of women left the
Yeah.
workforce during the pandemic because it was like it is makes more sense for me to be at home taking care. And like women are still trying, like our re-entry to the workforce is a little bit slower post this she session because the cost of childcare
Yep.
and the cost of childcare is rising, the availability is shrinking. It is a problem. Um, Healthcare is also wealth stripping for women. We live longer, and our healthcare, they apply the pink tax to it. Literally, if you compare what the premium for a woman versus a man the same age, the woman's premium is going to be higher. So again, the cost of healthcare is wealth stripping. Our
Not
longevity is
only I was like, not only the pink tax, but also, things like Viagra are gonna be covered by insurance, but things like menopause care may not be covered by health
right.
insurance. You're
So
like,
it's
"Oh, sure."
really caregiving too, like, so not just childcare, but elder care
Yep.
Yep.
disproportionately falls to women, and that is another significant wealth stripping thing. So it's just we could spend days which hole do you want to go down, right? Which rabbit hole do you want to
Right.
follow? But it's just so interesting. And again, for women to start like having these conversations right now too, like if you're a sandwich generation, right? You're raising children, but you're also looking at your parents or the generation above you and they're aging and you're not having conversations with them and they're not having conversations with you
Mm,
about what's their plan is.
yep.
This Let this be my PSA red flag moment. Like I had 2 good friends I talked to pretty regularly, and we were yesterday like, "We need to create a spreadsheet. We need to create a spreadsheet that we share with our friend group, and so that we can actually use to talk to all of our parents. Like, we need to know about, like, what are your wishes? Where do you wanna be? Like, do you wanna be in your home? Like, what are your plans? Like, can we all share this spreadsheet so we can know which questions to ask, we can know which, like, information to capture? Because that would be a really helpful tool because, again, the generation above me does not want to talk about money. Absolutely. Like
Right.
they are super tight-lipped about it. And it's like, but this is going to be my problem. This is again not a gift you're going to give to your children if you aren't having these conversations. And I'm talking about me as an adult child, like to my
Yeah.
parent generation. And I get on stage and I say this, and sometimes my parents in the room, I'm like, still talking to you. Like, can we talk about this? Like, please, can we please
Yes.
have this
Yeah.
conversation? Because you're not going to live forever. And in one day, something will happen, and the onus will fall to me and my siblings. And I honest to God don't know if my brother's gonna show up. Like, I don't know if they're gonna show up for you. Like, I feel as a woman compelled as a caregiver to show up for my parents, right?
Well, and I have a friend who she is dealing with that right now. Her mom just ended up moving and all of these things, and her brother keeps being like, "I'm not showing up, but I'll send you money. I'm not showing up, but I'll send you money." Which is just like, thank you for sending money to help take care of these things. And also, money does not solve having to convince my mom to remember to take her medication in the morning and trying to convince her not to stand up after her hip surgery. Like, this is helpful, and also it's not, and it does tend to fall to the women to show up and to try be there. And yes, I think that you also highlighted something I want to just call out specifically. The generation above, Angela and Annabeth, you guys are a little closer in age, above you did not talk about money at all. I think you guys, it's this, we're going to talk about money, but
We're
it's really
trying.
awkward and uncomfortable, and I don't know what to do with this. And I
Mhm.
think that I am now, like, me and my friends in my generation, we're like, yeah, we're going to talk about money.
Y'all
I
talk
don't
about
exactly,
everything.
but I'm like, I don't know exactly how we're going to talk about money, but we are going to talk about it. Like, I don't, we don't exactly know what we're talking about, but I mean,
Yeah.
I was open with my salary with my friends from the beginning because it's like, I think everybody should talk about salary. There's lots of studies that it doesn't benefit the average
I
human
think your
being to not
generation
talk
is
about
also
these.
is the influence generation, is the digital
Yes.
generation, and so it's also there's less economic mobility in your generation than there was in mine and my parents, right? Like
Yeah.
the economic mobility is really meaning how one moves up the economic ladder. You go from like, working class, middle class, upper middle class to like the one percenters. Like it is harder and economic mobility in America is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And
Mm.
yeah, the younger generations were comfortable talking about, like, but like you don't recognize that your economic, like your agency and your ability to go up this escalator is shrinking because you're the
Yeah.
influence generation. You are buying bigger houses than you can afford. You're driving nicer cars.
Yeah.
You want to go on the Instagram vacation and do all this. I'm like, you are, where it's talking about money, it is one of my favorite things, but it also, I think, Angela, I'm like, it comes from also like, trauma too. It's like, oh my,
Yes.
like I'm like living in, I live constantly in fear that like not only is my electricity going to go out, like, but I am also like, oh my gosh, like what happens to my like who's going to financially take care of my parents?
Yep. Yeah.
While I'm also trying to raise
Yeah.
children. So
I on the influence generation, one of my favorite like little tweets that I saw recently was seeing everybody go on vacation on Instagram makes me wonder, are they really bad with money or am I really bad with money? Like I can't figure out which one.
can't figure it out.
And but that's the thing, you can't figure it out whichever way it is.
I had a friend early, like, because we traveled a lot. We traveled more than people with kids our age, and a lot of that was because we had family in Canada, and we made friends with people that lived other places, so we didn't have to pay for a lot of lodging. But one of my friends said, "How am I married to a banker, and I never get to go on vacation?" And Angela gets to go on vacation like every single year, and it was a real big and he was like, "Well, we probably manage money better than they do." And I'm like, "Yep, you're probably more prepared for
They
retirement." And
might be
also,
more
I got
prepared. Yeah.
they're probably more prepared for retirement, and I have some great stories.
Well,
Anyway,
there's a balance with in life, but
sure.
that's why it's important for generations of women to have these conversations because, again, Sammy, you're gonna be taking care of my generation, right? So again, you should be not only concerned about your financial circumstance, you should be very concerned about Angela and I's financial circumstance, right?
Oh, and I'm the granddaughter-in-law who's also very concerned about my husband's grandparents' financial circumstance, and I'm the one who's not afraid to talk about it. And so I've been like, "Come on, let's sit down. What are we talking about? What's their money situation?" And they're like, "You're not going to benefit from it." And I'm like, "I don't care. It's not about what am I going to get out of this. It's that we should be talking about this more and more often." And I have gotten my husband's dad, my father-in-law, he has told me their whole financial life story and like everything and the balance of the retirement accounts because I'm willing to ask questions. And my
Yeah,
husband was like, "How did you know these things?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just ask questions. I just figuring things out." So
that's
if
great.
you are wanting to figure it out, maybe ask a question. I know that feels scary, but also it is a good place to start.
Mhm.
Where can people find you, Annabeth, if they want to support the work that you're doing at the Women's Foundation of Arkansas?
So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, but you can also find the
Mhm.
Women's Foundation at womensfoundationarkansas.org. We're also on all the social media channels, but and a great way to support our work is to follow us, sign up for our newsletter. Also, we're a nonprofit and we're a public foundation. So we're not a private foundation. We don't have millions of dollars in an endowment. Like, I work hard to raise money every year, and that's what underwrites our budget. So again, just small individual gifts, especially in the current climate that we have, supporting women's organizations are really, really critical to, I think of us not as a nonprofit, but as a business again. And we want to be a good business. And so we strive to do that so we can continue to do the work for women and girls across the state of Arkansas.
So you're saying I
think
could
that's wonderful.
I could literally donate $25 a month because it's 2025, and you would be delighted with the
Would be
$25 a month.
delighted.
The
You're
average
so
nonprofit is supported by $19 a month.
right.
Is the average individual giver. So if you're able to give $25 a month to Women's Foundation or another wonderful organization, don't be afraid of those small gifts, because then you are building your own like spiritual wealth too, like just
That's right.
feeling good in the world. Thank you
Thank-
so much for joining us.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Share it with your friends, reshare the YouTube, the Spotify, the Apple, whatever it is. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.